4. Plenty of time for John now. Squeezes, steps up in the pocket. LA can run. He's got the 10. Head first. He fires off the 5-yard line.
Manning out of the gun. Manning lets it fly. It's caught by Thomas. There's the record for Peyton Manning. Rushing ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground and still on the ground. Picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line.
Here we go. First snap of the overtime. The Broncos have been in 3 overtime games this year. They won them all. Got him at the 40. It's Thomas at the 50. Stiff arm got him 3 to the 30, to the 20. Thomas to the 10. Denver's going on the New England. They win it on the first.
And welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Mundungus Creevy, joined by my co-host Glenn Hauser, Mr. Boggins, and Richie.
Oh, yeah.
We are a fan-led Broncos-based podcast, bringing you all sorts of Broncos-related craziness. You're listening to the MHRT Podcast currently, which airs every Tuesday at 7654 on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. And also, make sure you tune into our other podcast, the Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue podcast, that airs every Thursday at 7654 on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
Lovely.
Doing well.
That was perfect.
He's doing better now.
Yeah, I was gassy before. Now I'm.
Yeah, he's doing way better now.
Quality content. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. Let's see what we got in here. We got Mr. Muhammad Badri, which is good. I told him to join us in the chat today because I've got some questions for him.
Ooh.
Where
were you last Thursday?
Here. Avatar. That's not Avatar. That one's Avatar. Christopher, Earl, Ashley. Boom. Is that because of the burp, or is that because we're live? That's my question.
Oh, I think that was
Good
just
question.
because of the time belch. I mean, that was pretty well timed, really. If you're gonna be on it.
That was my nickname in high school, so it's perfect.
There you go. So like we just get done with like the season. We're all sitting here like, yeah, there's gonna be so much news to report on. Like we're never gonna have to worry about content. I have no idea what to talk about. Like there's nothing. Obviously we're gonna talk about coaches. Obviously we're gonna talk about ownership. There's been some pickup in the Kirk Cousins talk for the Broncos, so we're gonna talk about that as well. And anything else anybody else wants to talk about within reason. Sweatshirts. I got my Mario DT sweatshirt. I love it. It's awesome. Thank you, you guys. I think they're back up for sale, correct?
They are.
So
Yeah, they don't ship to Canada.
Well, that's because Canada sucks.
Wow. You ever had poutine? Okay, then. Canada sucks until you've had poutine.
Yeah, and then you realize that may be our second best export. Strange
maple syrup?
movie is number 1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. That's true.
I mean, Austin Powers was probably a good export as well.
Yeah.
From Canada?
Well, Mike Myers.
Mike Myers.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Austin Powers, Mike Myers. Come on.
I forgot. I always assumed he was like Irish because of all, or is like Scottish because of all his Scottish accents.
His mother is. His mom is.
All right, so let's take a look at the playoffs so far. The Bengals beat the Raiders 26-19. Thank God. Now that was an interesting game.
I do like how all the Raiders fans are holding on to that like mistake of a whistle so hard. They're just like technicality. We should have had another shot. Technicality.
The NFL was like, oh, they allowed it because the whistle was after the touchdown. And you look at it, and I've seen multiple shots.
Oh, there's no way.
There's no chance that whistle was after he caught the ball.
There's like no way, but like at a certain point, like who cares? It wouldn't have really affected.
Like,
it didn't affect.
It's Raiders.
No.
It's Raiders, so it's like karma. That's what you get for being.
I get that some of the players started to like slow down and stop because they heard the whistle, but like Chase had that. There was no.
Yeah, they wouldn't have stopped.
There's not any So
or Boyd, Tyler Boyd. They were probably going to score. They would have scored the next play anyway.
Yeah.
It was the second quarter. It's not like it was the puck roll
when they're going through Canada, don't you? What birds are that?
Is that
what birds fly upside down when they're going through Canada?
Is that kind of like a
Rich,
sideways
you should know this.
Australia joke?
No, that's what I was
the
going to say. That to
backwards?
me is like kind of a badly played like Simpsons Australia thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's
It
what I was
just,
getting.
yeah, no.
Yeah, no. And then we had Buffalo completely annihilate the Patriots 47-17.
Yeah, that was the one I didn't get
close.
right. That was the one this weekend I did not get. I thought the Patriots were going to have
I had the Bills.
be competitive and like, you know, when you think the Bills are going to do really well and then like Bill Belichick's like, no, like the Dikembe Mutombo finger. No. That's what I thought was going to happen. And that didn't happen.
If Belichick says, "Oh no, you didn't,"
Oh no, you didn't. With his sleeveless shirts, like.
Okay, then we had Tampa Bay beat the Eagles. The Bucs beat the Eagles 31-15. I mean, we kind of saw that one.
I mean, that was absurd. Yeah.
The Niners beat the Cowboys 23-17. That was kind of funny. That the last like 13 seconds. I know people are getting on Kellen Moore for that play call, but honestly, with the defense that they were showing, that was the right play call. It was just executed horribly.
Yeah, I agree. I thought if they would have
it looks like it looks like Dak and the center were the only two that knew what that play was, and everyone else is like, "What are we doing?"
Yeah.
They didn't hand the ball to the official. I mean, rule number one. He's got to be the one placing it, not the center.
And for Dak to like pretty much praise the fans for throwing garbage at the refs, that's not cool. That's not cool. I don't care if you're, very angry. You just
for sure.
And then Dak pretty much was like, "Oh yeah, well, good on the fans." I mean, that's not exactly what he said. But basically, he was like, "Good on the fans for throwing stuff at the ref." It's like, well, you're the idiot that didn't give the ball to the ref. You're the one that didn't get out of the way. You're also the one that didn't run towards the sideline.
Yep, all those things. But I do think it was a decent call. I mean, they were all spread out. They were giving everything in the middle of the field. You potentially had the time if you were to like let everyone in the huddle know like this is what's going to happen. Run your butt to the point of the ball and just get it snapped off and get 1 second left for a Hail Mary. I mean, that's probably what the plan was, and they just didn't execute.
But that wasn't even the worst call of the game. The worst call was the Niners having 4th and an inch and shifting Trent Williams to the point where he doesn't get set and a false start, and they end up having to punt. I mean, that was the dumbest.
Yeah,
I mean, it was an automatic first down.
I mean, a lot of Randy Gregory too, just being absolutely incompetent as far as like where the line of scrimmage is, and him just like looking at the refs, just like, "Oh, what you guys are wrong." It's like, buddy, you need glasses.
If the Chargers played instead of the Raiders, you think it would have been a different story in the game?
No.
No.
I mean, I just think that's a ridiculous like context because they got beat by the Raiders like the week before. Yeah. So
I think the Raiders have a better defensive line. So going against a team like the Bengals, they're going to look better. And yes, the Chargers may have a slightly better offense and a pretty good quarterback there, but ultimately I think the outcome is going to be the same.
I'm realizing now I was 6-0 on my playoff picks, by the way.
I know I got one wrong because I was trying to be cute with the Patriots one.
I went the opposite with all of you, so I went like 0-6.
Oh, that's right, huh? That's right.
The Chiefs mobbed the Steelers 42-21. I mean, was that even really in question either? I mean, there was a minute with the Chiefs over the Steelers. Yeah. There was a minute there in the first quarter where it was like, okay, I could see it happening. Okay, and no.
Nope. Never.
And then that leaves the Rams and the Cardinals. The Rams won 34-11 over the Cardinals.
Kyler Murray, dude, he is like the biggest, like hot and cold in the NFL. Like he is. Like people get mad about Drew Lock being inconsistent. Kyler Murray is so frustrating to watch because his talent is so high, and then he just does the dumbest things sometimes where you're just like, bro, if you were to just sit back and like think about stuff instead of just like, oh my god, and just like chuck the ball. I don't even know, dude. It was tough to watch. But I did change my prediction from Cardinals to Rams via Twitter before the game. Just FYI.
Johnny, I did it on purpose. Leave me alone. Glad to see Big Ben in his Glad to see Big Ben in his last game.
Yeah, that's true.
Until he's the Broncos quarterback next year.
No. Yeah, everyone's like, "Oh, Big Ben's gonna be available. Let's go get him." Please no.
I heard yesterday that Mason Rudolph is the leader in the clubhouse to be the Steelers' starting quarterback next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that what Tomlin said, that he wanted to stick with? Well, he wanted to stick with one of the quarterbacks that's currently on the roster to lead the team next year.
Yeah, and it's expected that they draft Kenny Pickett as well, though. But yeah, I just like between gosh, what a frustrating place to be, which is pretty much where we're going to be. If we don't get one of these elite QBs, is they're going to have Kenny Pickett and Dwayne Haskins and Mason Rudolph. Yay!
Now, do you think do you think they start like Rudolph, for example, for the first few games, and then when they tank, do you think they flip the other guy in, or do you think they just kind of roll with one guy and go?
I honestly think it just depends on training camp. Like, probably Mason Rudolph, just because he's going to be more familiar. But that's it.
And so I guess we might all be predicting this could be Tomlin's first losing season then.
I don't know
maybe, depending on Pickett.
I don't know
depending
about
that.
On Pickett. I said is because their defense is so good.
I also want to see their schedule. I don't know who they're playing next year, as far as like what AFC said. I mean,
they can
NFC said.
They can stick with Haskins. There we go. Woohoo!
It's possible.
I will bite the bullet on the Haskins string, because I thought that we were going to get Haskins that year, and I was excited about it because I liked Haskins coming out. And then, man, did he just screw everything up in every way possible. Just like in every way possible. Like, didn't even get a chance to develop because he was too busy spending his time at his strip club. Just like, what are you doing, dude?
Someone didn't get an invitation.
Yeah. The big, maybe he saw Urban Meyer there. The big news.
Wow.
The big news is that the Mike Mayok has been fired as GM of the Raiders.
What?
So the dumpster fire gets bigger.
Who would have ever thought that would have happened? Like, after the report came out that Mike Mayok was hired as the new Raiders GM, I would have thought he would have been their GM for life.
Ever.
I didn't
He's
think.
so good in the draft.
Wow. Like, he's so good on TV about talking about draft prospects. He should be good as a general manager. I don't know. It's crazy. Crazy, guys.
Well, how about that they started announcing interviews for head coach and GM without Mayok already losing his job? You know?
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
It was that's the Raiders' way of doing business, not the classiest organization for sure.
Mark Davis is too busy about scheduling his next haircut.
But we're eating at PF Chang's.
All right, so let's dig into some Broncos stuff here. So we've got somebody's dog's going nuts.
Yeah, they are.
That just got done. It was a 4-hour interview with Kellen Moore that just got done with, and I believe that they're currently interviewing Dan Quinn. What other interviews have been done already?
I think Glennon, Hackett,
Getsy and Hackett, right?
Oh yeah, Getsy.
They're flying out to Boston.
Aaron. Yeah, sorry, you already said Aaron Glenn. That's right.
Yeah, Aaron Glenn.
And then flying out to Boston area tonight after the meeting with Quinn. They have Mayo tomorrow afternoon. They've got Gannon in Philly, and that leaves us
Callahan, Bieniemy, and O'Connell.
Yeah.
I think Bieniemy is the one that's scheduled last on Friday.
Last,
right?
yeah.
Friday or Thursday.
Yeah. I don't see Bieniemy happening. So
I foresee us knowing who our coach is going to be probably next Monday. Would be my guess.
Bieniemy he's said to be the leader for the Minnesota head coaching position.
Yeah.
He was there for 5 years under this ownership.
And when you look at it, there's basically 2 leading candidates for the Broncos with possibly a third. It would be Quinn and Hackett, and then potentially Moore, but Moore is, I doubt it. But like the leading candidates would be Quinn and Hackett, and there's a fairly large gap in between those 2.
Yeah. I think Albright has pretty much said it through for months. Like we've seen this coming forever. Like I predict it's going to be Quinn, and I don't. I just don't see Hackett. Yeah, I don't get me wrong. I like Hackett, but like we haven't seen an offense from him since the Jaguars, and he did make Blake Bortles look decent enough to get to the AFC Championship, but they were pretty much run by the defense. So it's kind of like you don't know necessarily where you're going to get.
Made Case Keenum look fantastic too, and we all know how that worked out.
Yeah, I'm just way more confident in Quinn. He's been to the Super Bowl twice. He's won it, or he has a
3
ring.
times. Twice with the Seahawks, once with the Falcons.
Right.
Wasn't Bradley one time with the Seahawks? Are you sure? I thought it was Bradley,
he went back to back, didn't he? Or did he get hired away after that the win? I thought he went to both Seahawks, and then that's when
I thought one was Bradley, one was Quinn, but I might be wrong.
No, because
he has Super Bowl experience, including a ring.
2015 was the year where he got hired on by the Falcons. So it would have been
so that would have been after the 2.
So that would have been after the 2 Seahawks Super Bowl.
So he's been to 3.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Well, my point even more. Like
what drives me nuts is, I'm sorry, Mike.
Go ahead.
What drives me nuts is that he's the only coach in this 10 coach list with any sort of head coaching experience.
Yeah.
And people are, the criticism is, the retread label. And, you think about who would be considered a retread, and like my 2 favorite retreads would be Belichick and Shanahan. All these guys are
Andy Reid.
Andy
Reid. How about Don Shula?
And that was before Philly.
Right? Dolphins weren't Don Shula's first team. Colts were. So it's did Washington hire a retread when Vince Lombardi became their coach?
And like the situation in which he left, like
yes.
he had a losing season the year before he got fired because they had a ton of injuries after the Super Bowl, and then they came in and then was like 1-7 or something, but like the GM was never giving him the pass rushers he ever needed, in which there is plenty of pass rush ability in this draft coming up. So I don't know. I honestly think that Dan Quinn is probably the best candidate currently available.
So the consensus seems to be Mike McDaniel would be the target for OC from
Albright and Edwards brought that up on Broncos Country tonight, right?
They did, and Albright has mentioned them for months. He's a Colorado guy. He grew up in Aurora. He went to Yale. He's got all sorts of experience. He's under the Shanahan.
Yep.
He'd be
press conferences are awesome.
Oh, he's hilarious. Yeah.
His pressers are amazing.
Yeah.
Looks like if you're a fan of the Howard Stern show, he kind of reminds me of JD Harmeyer, actually. But and then the speculation is that Raheem Morris, he doesn't get along well with McVay from what the reports are, and that he could be let go and available and maybe slide in for our DC under a Quinn regime. So,
and Raheem Morris was already under Quinn in Seattle. and then in Atlanta as well, I think. A quick stop.
And he actually was the interim head coach when Quinn got fired. So he's not only been a head coach as a very young guy, 32 for the Buccaneers. Morrison was the interim head coach, and he's actually been a coach on both sides of the ball. So he would be a great addition to any staff.
Mm-hmm.
So my big question then, and this is why I wanted Mobed on here, because I see him on Twitter all the time saying, I do not want Dan Quinn. And Rich has kind of said the same thing, like he doesn't really want Quinn. So I want to know why. What is your reasoning as to why you don't want Dan Quinn as head coach?
He's bald.
Oh, crap.
He's one of them.
Yeah.
One of them.
I mean, I'll wait for Mobad to respond, but I think for me, I like the idea of based on our list, right? So I'm not expanding out past what our list already is in terms of known interview candidates. But when I'm looking at the list, the guy that I keep looking at right now is Kevin O'Connell. And I think that he's been on a team that has got a very stellar defense and would certainly respect and understand the importance of, dare I say, not pulling an Andy Reid and saying, let's go all offense and effectively ignore the defense. And I also think that he's had, I will say robust, because I don't think that's necessarily appropriate, but he certainly has a fair number of years dating back to 2015 in terms of coaching experience in the NFL. So for me, if I had to pick one, I like Kevin O'Connell of the Rams. And then I also like Hackett of the Packers. Hackett is kind of like a bit of a Peyton Manning in terms of the NFL. His dad was an NFL coach, just like Manning's dad was an NFL quarterback. So there's going to be some, osmosis learning there in terms of just growing up within the family. Like, you're always interested in what your parents are doing and whatnot. So I like both of those guys over Quinn. I've already seen what Quinn can do. And I think that just a general change in terms of demographic, I think would be not a bad thing for us.
Okay.
Interesting.
Now Mobad brings up a point. He says, I want to change. I'm tired of DC's as head coach. And EJ kind of says the same thing. Dan Quinn is another defensive coach who went through that with Vance and Vic. Now, there are a couple points to that. One, Vance and Vic were first-time head coaches. Didn't work out very well. No.
And you can't compare Vance and Vic as coaches. No. The Broncos, not even close.
And then with the DC versus, defensive versus offensive, when you're looking at a head coach, it doesn't really matter. Like, when you look at a lot of the complaints that we lodged ourselves, and a lot of Broncos country was saying with Vic Fangio, was he always focuses on the defense, never worries about the offense. So why would you then want to go for an offensive-minded coach who's going to focus on the offense and not on the defense? You're going to end up in the same place, just reversed with the offense and defense. So that doesn't. You want that guy that's going to be able to manage both.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at Dan Quinn, his specialty is defense. But when you look at his time in Atlanta, he had 3 different offensive coordinators: Shanahan, Sarkisian, right? That's his name, Sarkisian. Yep. And then he had Cotter. So with Shanahan and Sarkisian, he had top 10 offenses with both of them. And then when Cotter came in, top 5 offense.
Mm-hmm.
Winning record.
He can do both. The problem that he ran into in Atlanta, and the reason why the general manager got fired as well, is because their drafting was poor, their personnel was poor, and that's the reason why they started to struggle in Atlanta. But when you look at Dan Quinn, he's that, and Boggins, I think has said it, he's that CEO that's going to look after everything and make sure he's got the right coordinators in place to be able to run it so that he doesn't have to, okay, I got to focus on this instead of focus on this. He doesn't have to worry about that. He can look after everything.
Yeah.
I think that's his problem. Yeah. Vic's biggest problem was that he had an offensive coordinator who was a colossal failure. Mm-hmm. If he had one of these top offensive coordinators that he could count on to take advantage of all these weapons that we would have, even with a marginal quarterback play. And that's even, I just think about, our topics of conversation at the beginning of the season. We were just looking for middle of the road quarterback play from either one of the guys that were selected. And we would have been able to coast through just with the defense and with these offensive weapons. And Shermer couldn't even make that happen.
Yeah, I think like Vic's biggest problem really was that he was too focused on the defense. I think that like a good head coach has his hands in everything, right? I think that defense, like essentially that's why Scangarello got had to kick rocks, right? It was because he didn't want to have to deal with anything offense. And when you have someone that's trying to learn and grow as an offensive coordinator, Fangio was like, I don't want any part of that. That's why he brought in Shermer, who was experienced and had already been a head coach and offensive coordinator. So he brought him in so he could pretty much be like, yeah, you do offense, I'll do defense, which I don't think is how you become successful. I mean, look at Bill Belichick, defensive-minded coach, Pete Carroll, defensive-minded coach, Mike Vrabel, defensive-minded coach. It works when you're able to have your hands in each and every little part of your organization, because that's how you win. Like if you don't if you're a good supervisor, you look at every little bit of it. You don't just be like, I just won't pay attention to this one part because I don't like being over in that section of things. Right.
And you delegate.
So, yeah. And you delegate.
Right.
So yeah, that's why I think that, and Dan Quinn is good at doing that.
Yeah.
I actually think
Broncos like offense. We need an offensive head coach.
That's not how things work.
No, I actually think that what you saw from Belichick early on in his career, and even Vrabel a little bit earlier on in his coaching career, and I think why Vrabel's worked out when so many others from the Belichick tree haven't, is when they first started, they hyperly focused on the defensive side of the ball because that's what they were good at. And then you've seen them over time start to build up a staff and then delegate out, which is exactly what Glenn and Boggins were both saying. And that's why they've continued to be successful. And that's why you see both sides of the ball coming up to them as coaches, and being able to converse, have conversations, because they're not being ignored. And I think that's ultimately what you need from your head coach. So I think it'd be perfectly fine if you ended up with an offensive head coach who hyper focuses on the offense, because it's been pitiful the last couple of years. But ultimately, you need someone that can zoom out and delegate as time progresses, once they start getting things back where they want it to be. And if you go too offensive and someone who can't zoom back out, I think you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
And
EJ says Broncos lack the ability to develop a young quarterback. That's why we need coaches, a head coach, and offensive coordinator that have done it. I agree with offensive coordinator, but not so much head coach.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at with Seattle, it was like Dan Quinn, and then aside from him, it was like Raheem Morris. There was
Bevel.
Mm-hmm.
Bevel was there.
Are you just like naming coordinators, or are you saying specific?
Well, there's like the coordinators, and then they were able to bring in like the quarterback coaches. Like they had Matt LaFleur in there. They had Mike LaFleur in there. They had Sean McVay was in there. Like they've had all these great coaches. So you need it. It's not so much having a specific defensive or offensive head coach. It's about finding that head coach that can find the coordinators that are able to pick the right coaches for the players to be able to develop the players.
It's kind of like
I was going to say, I think I can speak for all of us that if the Broncos announced that they hired Nathaniel Hackett as head coach, like none of us would be
no
like,
issues.
oh, this is terrible.
I'd be skeptical. Yeah. I'd be skeptical.
I'd be honestly a little nervous because, especially since, after Vance, after Vic, 2 first-time head coaches. Yeah, he's an offensive coach, but it's still his first time being a head coach.
But look at the fact. Look who he's working with. Look who is giving him rave reviews. I mean,
as a person,
characters in the NFL is expects a lot, and it's got to be Aaron Rodgers, right? So the fact that he's pushing this guy to get a head coaching position says that he respects him a lot and that he does a great job. So.
I kind of look at him as like the Dan Campbell, like everyone loves him and he's going to be a motivator of men, but it's going to, take time for him to develop as a head coach, I think.
My only concern with someone like an Aaron Rodgers, much like a Peyton Manning, like we had on our team, is they're looking for someone to throw new ideas at them so that they can incorporate it into the game and they can edit a lot of the stuff themselves. And when you look at Peyton Manning, he vouched for Adam Gase. Now, Adam Gase produced some awesome memes as a head coach from his presser with his eyeballs coming out of his head, looking like he was on drugs. But aside from that, he hasn't done particularly well as a head coach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Correct.
Actually, Biggie has a very good point here.
Well, I was going to say, why you need an offensive-minded head coach is to keep continuity, because if the offensive coordinator gets hired away every other year, you cannot keep that continuity. I asked this same question to Albright, and I got talking to like I was a 3-year-old child.
Yeah, that's not how things work.
Because he's like, listen, Shanahan, Sarkisian, Cotter, 3 very different, schematically different offensive coordinators, and they were successful with either one. That's kind of the point of the NFL, is the head coach and the coordinator are supposed to work and coach the staff under them to get them to move up. So that's the whole point, is to do that. So ideally, you would have an offensive coordinator that gets hired away, and then the quarterback coach steps up, and now he's the offensive coordinator. That ideally, that's what you want to happen.
Right. It's like saying, I don't want my kid to be successful because he's going to have to go off to college and get a job in another state. Like you want, that's they.
I don't think that's what Big E was saying. I think Big E was saying the exact opposite, is that he expects them to be successful and move on. But
yeah,
you mentioned,
would be great.
When you mentioned Gase on Broncos Country Tonight last night, they were actually speculating that if Peyton ended up as one of the owners of the team, back on the coaching staff. That was
stop it. No,
because Peyton is so tight. If Peyton's group ends up owning the team, the Ryan and Ben were speculating if Gase could be part of the coaching staff if that ownership change ended up.
I want to say it was Zach Stevens from DNVR. Somebody said the same thing, like, "Hey, what if Peyton Manning becomes an owner?" And then Zach Stevens is like, "Oh, so you mean owner and starting quarterback?" It's like, no,
not a chance. I don't even think Peyton and his crew even have a chance, because they don't have the money for it yet.
No, I've heard that.
Well, and that's one of the things I was going to bring up, is there was a report that said since the team is going up for sale, when it goes up for sale, it's going to go to auction, basically, is what it is.
Yeah,
and so the highest bidder would win. So you look at Elway and you look at Manning's group, and if it's going to be like a billionaire battle, they don't have the horses in that race to be able to keep up.
So that auction news the other day actually was contrary to what was originally reported. Originally reported was that the groups would submit a bid and the highest bid would win. It never mentioned that it was going to be a back and forth auction opportunity. But the reports are that the Elway group and the Peyton group are short on that type of funds. But so they better hope that one or two of the bowling kids hold out, and so less of it for sale and the price tag is low.
Unless they get in contact with one of those other big bidders that has the potential to be in there, and then they can have them join in their group, and then that big bidder pays a little bit less. Maybe everybody wins.
Real quick break, and then we can continue on. EJ says Kubiak was our last offensive-minded head coach, and what happened? We won Super Bowl 50.
How?
Why did we win Super Bowl 50?
The defense.
Like one of the greatest defenses of all time is why we won that Super Bowl.
Easily top 3, if not higher.
No,
that's like saying, remember when we went to the last Super Bowl before that with John Fox, who was a defensive-minded coach? We got there with the offense. See, it doesn't always matter.
And that's why I keep saying, like, it. Ideally, it doesn't really matter if it's offensive or defense, because you want that head coach that is able to look at both, pass it off to really good coordinators who can then train up their staff to take their place. That's ideally what you want. And when you're looking at head coaching candidates, Dan Quinn is the one that fits that. Now, do I have a problem if it's Kellen Moore or Nathaniel Hackett? Absolutely not. Whoever Peyton picks, I'm down with. Like, if he picks them, I'm set. Like, I trust in what he's doing. So if Dan Quinn's not his guy, cool. Do I think it's going to be Dan Quinn? Absolutely.
You know how you really just shut down this argument? You start going through head coaches that have been successful. Now start going through their offensive and defensive coordinators. Does it matter?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, when you have a good head coach that's there, for a decade or whatever, if he's successful, he knows how to hire.
And then you end up with the churn.
Yep.
You end up with a natural churn that just happens just because.
So have we heard any news on who else is going to be bidding on the Broncos? Like, we know Elway Group, Manning Group. Is there anyone else that we know for sure is going to be bidding on them?
We haven't even heard who are the members of the Elway and Peyton groups. I have
LE or something with Peyton or something.
Elway would be involved with Philip Anschutz, who's a Colorado billionaire. But I see reference to Jeff Bezos. I mean, that's my dream partnership, Bezos with Peyton.
No,
there's someone with that kind of cash, but but there's no indication that he's even part of this process at all. So
I don't. He's a
Martha
psychopath.
Stewart.
I don't want that. What?
He's a psychopath with a lot of
Stewart.
heart.
That's what I want. Martha Stewart.
She didn't make enough money on her insider stock trading.
That would relocate the team.
That
probably.
stadium that stadium would be.
But he would.
It would be fantastic.
Like, what are the chances he relocates the team to a higher market?
What are you talking about?
What do you mean? What am I talking about?
They would never allow the Broncos to leave Denver. Come on now.
Yes, they would.
No, I can see him.
Not a chance.
If Jeff Bezos bought the team, you don't think there would be a chance of relocation?
Not a chance.
Stop it.
Our waiting list for tickets is higher than the capacity of the stadium.
It's got to be approved by the NFL.
That's not total market though. That's not total market though. You put that in like New York, and just another New York one. You put that in, I don't know, just like you do the London thing, like Shad Khan is trying to do.
Big E saying that he heard that the Mannings were involved with Shaquille O'Neal and Dana White. I'm down.
Actually,
halftime is like a UFC fight.
I mean, this would be a good time for The Rock to back out of the whole XFL thing and just jump over and be like, I changed my mind.
Actually, you know what? I'm glad they mentioned that because I have heard that Manning, one of his people in his group, is Michael Rubin from Fanatics, who owns the Sixers, is involved. But
Amazon and Jay-Z.
Isn't the speculation just so fun? Like, it's
like for
totally wrong.
Madonna and
Madonna,
Kanye and Pete Davidson.
What's wrong
the guy, the girl from the AT&T commercials.
EJ wants to know why we are not interviewing Brian Dable.
Because they think he's going somewhere else.
Yeah. He's probably going to end up in Chicago.
I think Miami.
I think Chicago. Let's fight.
Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart. Right now. See, we had this conversation on Nothing Rhymes. Like Snoop Dogg would buy it, and then Martha Stewart would be like the team president. But Snoop Dogg is a big Raiders fan, and I was like, well, that's why he would buy the Broncos.
True.
To like tank the Broncos so that the Raiders can no longer be in last place.
You know what celebrity?
He'd replace George Payton with Mike Mayok.
What are some big name celebrities that could actually buy it? Like Dr. Dre, maybe, or what's the girl?
Dr.
The girl
Dre
from
doesn't even have as
Seinfeld.
much money as Jay-Z though.
Jay-Z, the one lady from, huh?
I think Kanye has more money than both of them.
No, Kanye's a
Jay-Z's up there.
No, because he had that vitamin water and he had the other thing. Like he's worth like legit money.
Well, Dr. Dre.
Sorry, I meant 50 Cent. Sorry, you're right. Yeah.
Dr. Dre sold his beats to Google for like $2 billion or something. So
yeah,
he's up there. He's up there.
I mean, maybe it's all of them. Jay-Z,
combined,
Dre, 50,
by your powers,
they're all combined.
It looks like the We Are the World.
WWE McMahons, they don't have that kind of money.
Yeah.
We don't need another McMahon involved with the Broncos. Let's be honest.
Oh gosh, this is what we're doing now. We're just reading
how is
names.
How is it possible he's the first coordinator to get an interview? By the way,
McMahon.
What?
Yeah, McMahon was the first ex-Broncos coordinator to get an interview.
He knows more people than I think we realize because he's apparently a producer on like Pat McAfee show too. Like,
Tom McMahon.
Yeah, but I mean, he was a special teams coordinator for the Colts. So
wait, he's a producer on Pat's show?
Yeah.
Then he doesn't need to work, so stop.
not after that FanDuel contract. Wow.
Okay, so someone was asking, I'm trying to find it, if we hired Hackett, who would be, there it is. Hackett gets head coach. Who do you think he will hire for defensive coordinator? I mean, obviously, OC would probably be Getsy, would be my guess. Getsy would follow him over.
No. He would move up to OC of the pack. He'd stay with Green Bay and get promoted there.
Potentially, yeah.
In my opinion.
DC, I have no clue. Maybe.
Yeah.
Mayo, I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Depends on what he'd want in the defense, though. Like, you don't know whether he'd want to go with Mayo or whether he'd want to try to steal another defensive coordinator from somebody else, or I don't know.
Do you think the Pats are going to try to want to hold the Mayo?
Wow.
Well, that's going to do it for the podcast today, everybody.
Yeah. Do you think there's anybody in-house that could stay as defensive coordinator?
Well, people keep saying Donatel, but he's got an interview with who'd you say? Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why people think everyone's going to want to keep Donatel. I don't think he's going to stay.
Yeah. I mean, we still have Kolar or Christian Parker, or you know what I mean.
Ooh.
They could potentially.
Leslie Frazier's a good one. I didn't think about that.
Or Leslie Frazier.
I still want to know why Leslie Frazier or Todd Bowles hasn't gotten an interview.
Well,
I'm surprised about Bowles.
They've gotten interviews, just
with the Broncos.
I'm surprised about Bowles. I really liked Bowles as a coach. I thought he was actually a lot better than he's been given credit for.
Wasn't it this group that said no, Quinn? Dallas game is the perfect reason for a no, thank you. I mean, this podcast has said no. We've always said yes, Quinn.
Wasn't us.
Dallas game is a perfect reason for a no. So you're gonna judge him on one game?
The defense played fine.
They held the Niners to 23 points.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't the defense that was having the issues.
Well, the defensive penalties. If you want to criticize them for anything, it's the discipline.
Yeah,
but they saved them in that game.
I mean, you can criticize every single candidate that's up for a head coach position, but you can't just judge them on one game and be like, "Oh, look at that." Think
how fun it'd be if you had Dan Quinn next year and you use Baron Browning the same way they use Micah Parsons.
Ooh.
Just all over the place. That'd be fun. And then you get you draft like a Devin Lloyd. I don't want a linebacker in the first round, just to be clear. But if we were to get like a Devin Lloyd, who is also like a Swiss Army knife, kind of like a Baron Browning, that would be just pretty fun. Just both of them, like, oh, you don't know where they're going to be. They could be anywhere.
I guess my only comment to what you guys said about Donatel is I think there is some real benefit in us keeping a Fangio-esque scheme given who we currently have on the roster. I think it's a bit of a stretch for you to retool that much to shift schemes. And I also think that the Fangio scheme has proven to work rather well against our divisional opponents. Yes, we have not done well against our divisional opponents in terms of actual wins and losses. But again, I think that largely gets down to the offense because we kept a good number of these teams that we played against to less than 20, 24 points. And if you have a reasonable or decent enough offense, you should be able to win those games.
My biggest takeaway from what Rich just said was that I've been saying the word against wrong the entire time.
Against. Biggie Bronco says, I think Quinn would get us back in the playoffs.
Queen's
but I have my reservations.
Don't you dare drop a U on me here.
I have my reservations about getting us over the hump and back into the Super Bowl. And my question is, what other coaching candidate are we interviewing that has gotten the team to a Super Bowl?
I'll tell you what, it really depends on quarterback. It depends on who we have at quarterback. The head coach is one piece of it. We have to figure out the quarterback position. That's a very, 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 very big part of it because that's who is on the field leading the team. So if we don't have the right quarterback, we're not going to be back anytime soon.
And speaking of quarterbacks, so there's been, obviously we're still aiming and hoping and praying and sacrificing whatever we need to get Rodgers and or Wilson. And would be good. Rodgers and Wilson. We'll take them both.
We'll take them both.
Rodgers or Wilson to the Broncos. But if that doesn't happen, there's a lot more talk that I've seen and stories and reports that Kirk Cousins is a more likely option for the Broncos in order as far as being successful next year. Now we talked about free agent quarterbacks, and there wasn't really a whole lot. We've also talked about Drew Lock. So is Lock the better option? Is a free agent a better option? Or is Cousins a better option if we don't get the big two?
Cousins makes a lot of money and doesn't win.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think I don't know what all the hate about Kirk Cousins is about. I think I would be skeptical of paying him $35 million. Maybe that could be restructured. No, it's not.
I think he's
no, they pay 10. They pay 10.
Yeah.
So I he's been like top 10 in most top categories. So I don't think he's a bad quarterback, and I think he does elevate our offense, especially with the weapons that we have. So I don't know. I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't like the cost. That's what I would have a big problem with. Other than that, like seriously though, if we don't get Aaron or Russ, I'm almost just like back to Drew and some whatever vet, and maybe draft the dude in the second round, like a Carson Strong or something like that. Yeah, maybe. Mike
Merchant's Minshew in 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, I know. I've heard. I think Albright said something about Davis Mills as like one of your seconds, and then also draft, and like maybe it wasn't Albright that said that, but like it was someone that said give a second for Davis Mills, and then just use another second round draft pick on another quarterback, and then have Drew Lock and just let him shoot it out. I wouldn't put that much capital into all that. I mean, I either use your second round pick on a Davis Mills and just let that be your quarterback pick that year, or just draft a QB and let him shoot it out with Drew.
And a lot of this is obviously going to depend on the offensive coordinator we go with. Like Biggie Bronco says, Kirk Cousins isn't a bad quarterback. He just can't win the big one. He had good stats this year. He had 4,900 yards and 33 touchdowns, and I think like 8 interceptions. I mean, his stats are always good. And Minnesota continues to lose talent. Like when they lost Stephon Diggs, that was a big hit. Dalvin Cook gets injured all the time. They're having some struggles on the offensive line. But I mean,
Thielen's getting hurt now too.
Yeah, what team doesn't have issues? So I mean, a lot of it's going to depend on the offensive coordinator. But you take Kirk Cousins and throw out the Broncos with all the receiving options that we have at tight end and wide receiver, the 2 running backs we have, even if it's an average offensive line, like that's good enough for a quarterback that can get rid of the ball fast. So I wouldn't have a problem with Kirk Cousins, but not at the price he's at right now.
And he was in a Kubiak system, which is routed from a Shanahan system.
He was,
which if we got Mike McDaniels and then had Kirk Cousins. Last time Kirk Cousins was in a Shanahan style system, he went to the playoffs. So yeah.
Clint Kubiak was his coach in Minnesota.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Kubiak system comes from Shanahan system.
But why does he have these great personal statistics yet can't seem to inspire the team to win? I can't quite put my finger on it, and that's my biggest knock on the guy. It's just I know it's not
say that same thing about Deshaun Watson, right? I mean, was Deshaun Watson winning games sometimes? Don't think so. They weren't in the playoffs very much, but it's still Deshaun Watson. I'm not comparing Kirk Cousins to Deshaun Watson. I get it, but it's still like a good quarterback that's just not winning.
Flying Dragon Films, which cheers to you on the name because that's
Jimmy G is better in the big game.
Jimmy G is better in the big game. Cousins wets the bet.
Huh?
So would you rather have a Jimmy G or a Kirk Cousins?
That's just not true, though.
I mean, which big game? Because Cousins really hasn't been in much.
Jimmy G missed like the biggest touchdown throw of his life to Emmanuel Sanders in the Super Bowl that would have won against the Kansas City Chiefs, and he whiffed.
He missed through it.
So, no.
Well, so if it was Jimmy G or if it was Kirk Cousins, you'd take Kirk Cousins?
Yeah.
No, I'd take Jimmy G just for the price tag. Like, are we talking like reality? Like, because if we're just saying like skill set, I would take Kirk Cousins. But if we're talking like reality with the paycheck, I would take Jimmy G just based off of the cap hit.
I think for me, I'd take Kurt because I've seen Kurt do something similar on two different teams. He kept on stepping in for RG3 when he got hurt, and which was regularly, and seemed to perform at a high enough level that the fan base and even the GM and coach had to constantly say, "No, he's not our starter. Look at RG3," and then everyone kept on saying, "Yeah, but we want the other guy, right?" And so, in my opinion, I think you saw Kurt elevate a group of players that were otherwise not playing all that well for Washington, who went by a different name back then. And then you have him now in Minnesota, who is obviously got better talent in Minnesota at the wide receiver position, at least for the first few years. And then they've now kind of declined a little bit at the receiver spot. But I think at the end of the day, Kirk has kind of remained more consistent, whereas I think Jimmy G has both gotten hurt and kind of floundered. He's gone up and down. So if I had to look at a consistent player, and again, we still have Drew Lock on his rookie deal right now. So if we're looking at what, well, I wouldn't dismiss it that much right now, because if you're looking at what we saw from Drew when he stepped back in after sitting behind Teddy, one thing that Drew didn't have in his first 2 years was a veteran quarterback to really guide him at all. And you've seen a marked improvement overall in terms of Drew's approach to the game, sitting behind Teddy Bridgewater. I would like to see him behind another veteran quarterback.
You had Joe Flacco like the greatest quarterback of all time.
I don't know.
If we don't get with his comment, actually makes a good point about they tried to take the ball out of Jimmy G's hands, and for sure they did. I mean, after that interception. I mean, let's face it. They had a 3rd and 11, and they handed off to Deebo Samuel. You know, late in the game,
but Deebo Samuel getting at the same time.
Within 1 inch of the first.
There's only one reason that like Trey Lance isn't in there is because of inexperience. Like Jimmy G is in there strictly out of default.
I mean, especially with an injured thumb.
But at that point, like Drew Lock, whatever. Like I would just have Drew Lock in there last year of his contract and a vet and maybe a draft pick. I wouldn't swing too high. In a perfect world, I wouldn't want a quarterback out of this draft class, especially not in the first round.
So my preference is Russell. So what would you're George Payton, you call Seattle and you offer them what?
Everything.
I would offer whatever.
I would Mike Ditka the crap out of that. Just like a whole draft, you get it. No, I don't know. Probably like 3 firsts, 2 2s, and probably like a swap 6th and 7th or something like that.
See, I think Seattle would potentially value players that have got at least a modestly proven track record and that are young or younger.
I wouldn't want to do that.
Well, no, but my point is that we have a reasonable draft, like where our picks are located. They're in reasonable spots, so they would also have a higher value on terms of that kind of general value chart that's often used. So I definitely wouldn't want to have to give up what you just said for Russell in terms of where the value chart puts all that at, because I think that'd be pretty high. Although you kind of look at what our first rounds have been and generally how they've just performed in terms of elevation of the team. And there's some arguments to be made that you just do that all day long. But I think we have some younger guys that are coming up to contracts being due. And I also think that Russell will need some help as he ages. So I don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot by trading away too much draft capital and then not being able to help him in maybe the last 2 or 3 years, or like in the next 2 or 3 years, just because we've given so much up.
I mean, I just think people overvalue first round picks. Like,
but also
if you know what you're doing, you're. I mean, and I definitely trust Peyton's ability to draft so far. So I don't. And there's also free agents, and then like quarterback is the staple of your team, especially when you have like Russell, the level of Russell Wilson, like that elevates your team above whoever you're gonna, unless you're picking a the next Patrick Mahomes within the next 3 years, who won't be Patrick Mahomes within the next 1.5 years. So, you know what I mean? So yeah, at that point, you're kind of swinging on what you have on your current roster, and you're like you were saying with the contracts coming up, you only have a certain window before you're going to have to start paying them as well. So you want to get a Russell Wilson in here now because you're built for it. You're built for a veteran to come in here who is already an elite star to play it out. Because otherwise, if you're bringing in another young boy, he's going to have to grow and you won't have time.
No, look at what Peyton's done in the 3rd through 7th round just in this draft alone. I mean, so if we gave up our 1st and our 2 seconds just this coming draft, I mean, I'm not going to argue with that. In addition to at least another number 1, in regards to Russ using us for a better deal, I don't see it that way. I think the guy sees the writing on the wall. He's one of the most hit quarterbacks of all time, not just in the NFL these days. His offensive line is terrible. They're going to lose one of their stud offensive linemen to free agencies. They've got no draft picks. They traded them away for a safety. I mean, they're in just a terrible disarray. I mean, he definitely is going to want to get out of there. And I don't see him looking at to try to leverage a better deal. And they're already announced that Carroll and Schneider are staying. So it's, this is his best opportunity to say, I need to get out of here. And it's perfect timing because Seattle really needs some assets and they need draft capital in a major fashion.
Did you watch the Manning cast last night? Like Russell Wilson said Broncos once and Twitter went nuts. Like, he said Broncos. That means he's coming. He wants to come here because he said Broncos. Like, I don't even know what he said. But
no, I also heard. No, I also heard. See, he's the future Broncos quarterback.
Mm-hmm. That's what I meant.
Yeah. It was the future Broncos quarterback with the future Broncos owner. It's like, okay,
right.
After Geno Smith
in a world where
quit showing off your new low voice, Boggins. Come on now.
Biggie Bronco says, I actually believe Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers is a pipe dream. Well,
maybe
both of them, yes.
I think
both of them coming to Denver is a pipe dream.
Mm-hmm.
But
I don't know. I don't know about a pipe dream. Like, I think it's realistic. I don't know
have
if
both of them come to Denver.
Oh no.
He said but like Russell Wilson, I think can force his way out. And Aaron Rodgers, if he doesn't restructure his contract, Packers can't afford him. So if it's going to happen, this is off season to do it.
Well, then there's also the 3rd round comp pick versus getting an actual draft haul for Rodgers as well for the Packers. So not only is it going to be rough for them to afford him on his current deal, but if they trade him this offseason, which will obviously be a pretty down year for the Packers coming up, but if they trade him this year, they'll actually get quite a legit draft capital that they could technically use to retool in the 2023 draft if they opted to go in that direction. The one question I had for everyone here, just on the Rodgers and Russell Wilson kind of thing, was you kept on mentioning you didn't want to give up players, but then on the next breath, you guys said that obviously the quarterback position is kind of that key position on the team that we're obviously lacking. So if the quarterback is that critical of a position on a team, which by the way, I actually agree with, then why would you not want to potentially give up some players that are currently on our roster that are nearing the end of their contract that you'd have to pay them, given the fact that George Paton has obviously proven that he can draft really well? So I'm simply kind of playing like devil's advocate in terms of Paton has drafted really well. So I personally have confidence that he can draft potential replacements for some of those players. Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't we potentially give up proven commodities to acquire a Rodgers or even a Russell Wilson if it meant that we got to retain more of our draft capital?
We would.
You have to. I think there's a difference between wanting to and having to.
Yeah.
Do I want to give up players? Absolutely not. Am I going to have to? Probably. But we should still have a say in who we trade away, though. Like, it's not going to be I get Jerry Jeudy and I get
Bradley Chubb or Draymond Jones.
Bradley Chubb and Draymond Jones, and you have no choice. It's like, no.
Draymond Jones is my one.
I would much rather give up Fant and Chubb at that point.
Yeah.
Not that I don't love both of them, but we have outside linebackers that have proven that they could play at a high level. I know Fant has some talent there, but at the same time, like, it seems like there's a lot of times where either he doesn't work with the quarterback we've got or he just doesn't try. And that's just my perspective of it. I'm not saying he does that, but that's what it looks like to me. So I'd rather give up them two than a Draymond Jones and a Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, I agree. I think Draymond Jones is my only, like, I really don't want to give up Draymond Jones. I love me Draymond Jones. Turns me on.
It would be a good opportunity for Locke. I bet they would take him.
Not that kind of podcast, Boggins.
Oh, sorry, wrong podcast.
Not that kind of podcast.
What time is that one on? Oh, okay.
That one's on. That one's
your OnlyFans is after this.
Is that new on Wednesdays or is it okay?
Yeah, that's the one hosted by Shadowjacker. That's how.
Got it. In the alley by 67th. Okay, cool.
We haven't seen Shadow lately. Hopefully, he hasn't taken his talents to another After Dark.
Yeah, to another alleyway
or in the dark, whichever one you want to go with. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's fine.
Another gentleman's club.
Gentleman's club. All right, so let's make our picks for the upcoming playoff games. And again, I'm hoping that with I'm going to get them all wrong, anyways. I'm hoping that with the last interview being on Friday, I'm hoping that after Sunday, after the last playoff game, we're going to have a head coach.
Probably next week.
You think next week?
Probably.
Or do you think it's going to be like interview, and then take a week to go through everything, and then do it like during the Pro Bowl?
But I don't think so. I think
they're going to wait until after the Super Bowl.
It depends on what team the coach is presently which team the coach is presently.
Do we even have any more coaches that are still coaching that we're interviewing?
Hackett
that's still O'Connell. That's right.
O'Connell,
the Green Bay guys, Bieniemy. Yeah, we got five coaches, two that we've already interviewed that are still in the playoffs.
But they're still scheduled for Friday.
Can a coach that is still coaching in the playoffs accept a job as a head coach?
Oh,
I've never
still coaching in the playoffs. Can they do that? Is it legal to do that? Can they do it and just they're going to obviously stick with the team?
I mean, I think they know they can have they can tell them that you're going to be the next head coach, but we're not going to announce it until after a certain time or whatever.
So, like for example, if it's going to be Hackett, and let's say they're playing in the Super Bowl, is it going to be we've agreed on terms, but haven't signed a contract
on principle?
On principle that he's going to be our head coach.
Well, there used to be a rule
until after the Super Bowl, right?
There used to be a rule that you could not offer the official position until they were done coaching, and it was an explicit rule. I'm not sure if that rule still exists, but there was still, you had coaches, like a head coach or a coordinator rather, who was playing or coaching one of the last games of the year for them, who all of the terms of their new deal with their new team had completely leaked to the media. So, it was it was laughable at best to say that you can't do it. But at the end of the day, there was an explicit rule that the official offer from the team could not have been made until after the season was over.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I've never heard of precedent.
It's kind of like the no tampering thing, right?
Right.
Like you can talk to them and agree, you just can't sign anything.
So when do you think we announce that we got Russell? Like when's that trade going to go through?
Tomorrow.
Post June.
When's the trade start?
Well, the Stafford deal with the Rams was a January announcement that didn't get to be official until March. But I would love for some clarity on this situation early on. It'd be so nice to have that squared away.
I don't know. All right, so Bengals and Titans.
I'm going to ride the Bengals train. I love to watch those guys.
Sorry, I was looking at Russell Wilson's contract pre post.
Well, you keep looking. I'm going to go Titans because they're getting Derrick Henry back.
Pre-June, they save a lot more money.
Pre-June.
If what? If they trade him or if?
Yeah, if they trade him. If they trade him, they have. Oh no. Sorry, no. They want to trade. They want to trade him post-June.
See, the problem then is then they don't get any draft capital in this year, so that doesn't help. That doesn't help them. So what's better, saving some on the cap or getting?
I was going to say how much cap are they saving post-June?
13 million.
I don't know if it'd be worth waiting at that point. I mean, if it was like 30, 40 mil, unless, 13 mil, I don't know if they'd wait for
unless Broncos eat a bit of it.
To get the number 9 pick right now?
Yeah.
And how much did the Browns pay for this Osweiler or get the second pick or whatever when they did that deal?
I'm going to assume the Bronco. Oh, that's Bill. I'm going to assume he means Brian Callahan because Bryce Callahan is a corner.
It's fair
for the Broncos. So I'm assuming Brian from the Bengals.
So maybe we'll get Bryce
Callahan. Rich and Boggins. Who you picking?
No, Callahan's the
Bengals.
Callahan is the Bengals coach that we're interviewing, aren't we?
Yeah. He said Bryce. It was a joke.
He said Bryce.
I think he's. That's weird. Okay, whatever. Yeah, I want the Titans. I think they're gonna win.
Okay. I will also say the Titans.
All right.
Glenn, you suck. 49ers and Packers.
Packers.
I'm going 49ers.
Of course you are.
Are you doing this again?
Yes, I am.
Mm-hmm.
Rams and Bucks.
So, like, if you're wrong as a joke, it's like better than being like just attempting to be. Yeah. It's interesting.
This one's a tough. This one's a real toss-up, isn't it? I mean, the
Rams
yeah.
It's a rematch. Tom Brady versus the Rams again.
Do we have any news on Wirfs?
Dude, that he didn't look good. I doubt he plays.
No, he didn't. That's why I'm asking.
No, I'm saying
because he did not look good.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm gonna go Rams.
I'm gonna go Rams.
Say Bucks so it screws Mike up. He'll be baffled what to do.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Rams just because I want Vaughn to win and Tom Brady hits Von Miller. So
I was gonna go Bucks either way. It looks like it's gonna be a game time decision on Wirfs.
Yeah. So either way, he's banged up, right? So.
And then the last one is the Bills and the Chiefs. That's gonna be a good game.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
I'm going Bills.
I have Bills.
Wishful thinking, Bills.
He's got to think about it.
There's really nothing on this, Bobby.
Yeah. All right.
Your ceiling is white. I don't know why you're looking up at it.
I am going to not believe in the Bills again. I'm going to say Chiefs.
Okay. All right. So those are our picks. That is our show. Those are our picks for everything. Coaches, coordinators, all that stuff. That's going to do it for us today. Now make sure that you're liking, subscribing, commenting, sharing, turning on notifications so you can catch all of our content when it's posted. Also, make sure you're hitting those little thumbs up because that really helps. We love those things. If you're going to hit the thumbs down, okay. Also, make sure you tune in to our other podcast, Nothing Rhymes, the Orange and Blue podcast, that airs every Thursday at 7654 on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Now, we have to end it with Boggins' favorite thing. I'm just waiting for him to post a picture up. Are you going to go ahead and do it or no?
I don't have anything.
No? All right, we're going to go ahead and do the Mile High Five then. So everybody get your arms out to the side, and we say, Mile High Five! He did it again. I knew it. And it's Mike McDaniel, too. I knew it. All right.
Broncos presser.
Oh, Jiminy. All right, that's going to do it for us. We will see you on Thursday, and then with Nothing Rhymes, and then we'll see you hopefully on Tuesday with some coaching news. Bye-bye, everybody.